7, the offensive end. Halpin up ahead for Leifer. Leifer open for it. Throws the alley for Terrell. Oh my goodness!
And we're in. Yo. We are back, baby. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Ball Habatim. This is maybe one of my favorite guest lineups ever. It's going to be just an insane amount of fun, and we're going to get to all of that. But first, let's introduce the crew. Tonight, we're fearing Tish with our resident stat head, a.k.a. the professor, a.k.a. the Admar of analytics. He thinks Derek Jeter is the most underrated defensive shortstop of all time. It's Shua Cohn. And making his Ball Habatim debut, he's the Golden Throat, a.k.a. JM and the PM, a.k.a. the once and future king of the Max Live broadcast. A man whose blazer better be retired in the rafters by next season. He's Yoshua Siegel. And of course, there's me, one half of the bandwagon boys. I am Ari Lamb. My other half, Simi Cohn, will be back with us next time and hopefully giving a little cheer in the chat. And of course, as always, we have the one and only, the mighty Mayor Wiesel, aka Mayor Meisel on the ones and twos, engineering us to the moon. And as Mayor always tells me to tell you, please like and subscribe to the Ball Habatim on YouTube. And guys, our Max may be out of the tournament this year, but hey, we have a ton to look forward to with this team and this program. And B, we still have a lot of D3 NCAA tournament left to play. And as Max fans, just getting to know the wider D3 landscape where, let me tell you, the Max are going to be a fixture for a long time to come. We have a lot of scouting and learning to do. So to unpack all of this, give us a sense of what's out there and what to look for in the week or two ahead, we brought on an absolutely stacked crew. First, we have the return of the king. He's the analytics guy extraordinaire whose shameless homerism on his last Ball Habatim episode, God somehow in his inscrutable wisdom decided to reward. He's the president of Hobbs University. He's Matt Snyder. I'm just going to keep going with these Calvin and Hobbs jokes until someone stops me. And finally, we have with us a new hotly anticipated guest. He is a legendary D3 hoops expert whose beloved D3 alma mater is like Hogwarts in that we all know what country it's in, but no one really knows its actual location. He's Ryan Whitnable. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is an unbelievable cast. So let's get it started. And I know Shua and Yoshua have a lot to say, but I just want to pick up on a thread from the last Ball Habatim episode and ask you, Matt Snyder, how are you feeling on this lovely Wednesday evening about your Calvin D3 NCAA basketball team?
I'm feeling great. They played great on Saturday at UW Platteville.
All right, don't rub it in.
Won by about 12 points. Yeah, it feels great. Just love watching the team. So any extra games we get, it's what I'm here for.
Unbelievable. So can you take us through, listen, we all put it down to homerism. I think Dave McHugh basically literally laughed you out of frame. But you were the Oracle. You had this locked down. What made you so confident about your Calvin Knights?
I said it because I wanted to believe it in my heart to be true. And, so far they're still winning, going to keep playing. I got my real bracket here. I'm not going to show you how much red I had to cross off after the first weekend. So I spoke it into existence, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Oh God, that's amazing. So I wanna get to the whole wider D3 landscape, but since we're honoring, as we are wont to do on this wonderful program, we are honoring the homerism of all of our guests. So Ryan Whitnable, you are a stalwart fan of the incredible Marietta team that we've been seeing, who've had a heck of a season so far. So take us through what you've loved about your incredible Marietta guys during this stretch and during this season.
Yeah, where do you start? It's been a magical year from start to finish. If you would have told me, after the first 4 games of the year, we're sitting at 2-2. If we're riding a 25 game, 26, whatever it is now, winning streak, and the Randolph-Macon loss was the last time we would have had a loss. I don't know if I'd have believed it, but this team has been incredibly consistent night after night. They're both great on the offensive end of the floor and the defensive end of the floor, and they've improved all year. It's not been one of those years where we've maybe peaked too early. So it's nice to be playing our best basketball in March, and we got another big weekend in Van Johnson, and hopefully we can take that next step as a program and play it in Final Four next week.
So Ryan, talk us through a little bit of the main players on the PIO. So I know we heard the Mountain Union coach say he'll walk Jason Ellis to his graduation because he's so glad to see him go. So we know about Jason Ellis, but let me hear what are some players that you like watching? What are their
well, one of the hallmarks of Marietta and one of the hallmarks of John Vanderwall teams has been depth. It's having 10, 11, 12 guys that you can go down the bench and really not see a large drop off. So Marietta is one of those teams that, they've got kind of a starting five that they'll play, and then they have a second five that will play. And by the end of the final 10 minutes of the game, a lot of teams have just run out of gas against Marietta and the way that they play and the up-tempo pace and the way that they can maintain that over 40 minutes. If you're looking for, big names, though, it starts with Lucas Ellis, OAC Player of the Year, averages 17 a game. But really kind of the straw that stirs the drink, I think, is Lucas Isley. And if any of you guys saw the Rochester game on Saturday night, 0 points at halftime, and he ends up finishing the game with 34 points. Really took over in large stretches of that second half when the team really had some key moments there. So those are your two big ones. Mason Leidick, of course, probably maybe the best defender on the team, is a big piece of that as well. Tim Krieger down in the post, and then the sixth man off the bench, Sami Willoughby, a guy who's I call him a walking double-double. He's been averaging a double-double here down the stretch. He's just an incredible rebounder. Just one of those effort guys that every team really has to have. Has really given us a lot of extra offensive possessions and some key points in games as well. So you can go up and down that lineup all the way down. I know I'm missing names here, but depth really is the key here for Marietta.
Matt, let's throw it back over to you. How about with the Calvin matchup with Elmhurst? Who are we looking at? What can we expect this weekend?
Yeah, so interesting with the Elmhurst matchup is that they played back in December. They played at Calvin, and Calvin had a really good night. They won by double digits. I think it was 18 points was the final margin. And the leading scorer that game was for Calvin was Luke Morrison, as it often is. He's one of several, I think, 4 fifth-year players that Calvin has on the team this year. I mean, he's been the leading scorer. I think maybe also that game he was tied with Thad Szymanski, who's also a fifth-year player. Calvin's a pretty perimeter guard-oriented team, I guess you would say. They don't really have a true post, a true big. Their post players are a little bit undersized, or off the bench, 6'8" sophomore Marcus Bolt. He's still more of a perimeter shooter type player. So Calvin's going to be comfortable out on the wings. Going to try to hold opposing guards in check a little bit. But yeah, that's a little bit about the Knights.
So one of the things that, because the core of our listenership are all Max fans. So I want you guys to both jump in on this, but I guess start with you. Ryan, as a program that's kind of like just emerging, onto the scene. So if we're looking at to kind of like pan out now to the wider D3 universe. So if we're, Max Nation, and we're looking for the next couple of years, obviously as every team and every conference got to take care of your conference first. But if we're looking out at the wider world, especially as we try to build up our strength of schedule, build up our ability to play regionally ranked opponents, who are some of the good squads that you think about as a Marietta fan that, we should think about, hey, these are the teams these are the kind of teams we want to play. These are the teams we should be targeting.
Yeah. When you talk about, at least here in the Great Lakes and in the Midwest, some of the, as I was growing up, some of the teams that was there every year carrying the flag in terms of quality year after year, you talk about your Worcesters, you talk about your Wittenbergs. Bob will be happy to know that Illinois Wesleyan is part of that group as well. That's been a consistent program over the years.
They have a basketball team out in that school. That's good.
That's
good.
what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Looking more up towards the Northeast, you know, the NESCAC probably has been the traditional power conference of the Northeast up your way. Wesleyan, Middlebury, Amherst, even Tufts has had some good years in there. Obviously, that's a consistent conference every year. And then your UAA, of course, which is a national footprint, NYU up that way, Brandeis. So those, you know, as you guys continue to build your program, and I think you will, and you know, I don't know if we want to get into that tonight, but as that snowball starts to take place, those are kind of the programs you look to try to emulate in terms of what they're doing on a year-to-year basis.
And what are you thinking? And what are you thinking, Matt, in terms of you know, teams that you'd say? And Ryan, I want to get back to that. You know, what it takes to, you know, what it'll take to build this program and what you guys have seen. But Matt, what are you thinking in terms of schools we should have our eye on?
Yeah, just starting with the conference I'm familiar with here in Michigan in the MIAA. The traditional powers have been Calvin and they've been Hope, two kind of cousin sibling schools, separated by a very small fractional denominational split. And between them, they've had, you know, a ton of MIAA championships and conference tournaments between the two of them. And they're the teams that have really carried the torch for the conference in the national tournament. Every now and then an Albion or someone like that will sneak in there. And this year was a little bit of a return to the top for Calvin and Hope. So those are the big names here in Michigan.
Even sounds like Calvin and Hobbes. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So as much as the history will speak, is those two schools up here in Michigan. Yeah.
We're spending an awful lot of time on not in a bad way at all, but on the more D3 spectrum, teams keep an eye on, so on and so forth. We take the Sweet 16 as a whole, the 16 teams left. Are there any teams that maybe 2-3 weeks ago you really didn't expect to be here, and now all of a sudden, coming up in a week or two, could really make a run to the Final Four that was really unexpected?
I think it's Calvin for me.
Yeah,
I think he's so a little bit tall coming.
I was just thinking like, oh, a lot of these teams I expected to be here, and then Ryan's right. Like one of the ones that you least expected to be here was Calvin. You know, sitting on the bubble, didn't necessarily know we were going to get into the tournament in the first place, and then to get in. And then you think, hey, it would be nice to win one, beat St. John's, kind of an even matchup there. And then they end up.
Can Calvin get Yeshiva's pool C bid?
Hey, you know, the max next year, you're going to build that schedule and you're going to get that pool C bid. You know, so that's going to be fine. Maybe one team for me. I mean, all these teams are good, right? That's the thing about the tournament. You hear a lot. All these teams are good. So it's not a surprise. I don't want to knock anyone by saying it's a surprise. I didn't necessarily expect RPI to get out of that pod. But they're good. I didn't, you know, Wheaton, it could have gone either way in that first game against Hope. So maybe they're one and done, but now they're in the Sweet 16. So since there were so many good close games over the first weekend, you know, it's not too much of a surprise to see anyone there. Obviously Oshkosh getting knocked out by Case Western Reserve. That's a massive one. But again, they're good.
For me, Case Western is the biggest surprise. And it's not so much that it's Case Western. It's I think we all thought Oshkosh was one of the top 2 or 3 favorites to win the national title this year. Them losing at home to anyone, I think it would have been the shock of the first weekend.
Yeah, that whole quadrant, you could have almost picked Oshkosh or not Oshkosh, and it would have been a coin flip. And obviously, we got not Oshkosh.
So actually, speaking of which, shouts to Bob and the legendary Chief Rabbi of New York, His Eminence Bob Coleman in the chat. Shouts to Bob, friend of the show. He points out that Matt predicted WIAC would go 0-3 Saturday night. Incredible. So first of all, can you explain to Max Nation? Hopefully, there's some WIAC fans watching. We love you and welcome you to the Ball Habatim. But for Max fans out there, can you explain what the WIAC is? Why one might not have predicted them to go 0-3 on Saturday night, and why you did?
The WIAC is the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and it's a bunch of the UW schools: UW Stevens Point, UW Stout, UW Whitewater. All those UWs are in the WIAC. although maybe Superior is not anymore. But they're a really good conference. It's one of the few conferences of state schools. So I don't know. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about if that's an advantage or not an advantage, but they're just a really good league. And, whether you do computer ratings or the eye test, I think every year you come out with them being, one of the top 1, 2, or 3 conferences in the country. They've won a boatload of national championships. They have a boatload of Final Fours, going back through the 80s until now. You can't go too many years without seeing a UW team in the Final Four. And they've cycled through as well. It's not just one team. It's not just 2 teams. A whole bunch of them have made it. So it's just a really strong league over there in Wisconsin.
And how did you have that intuition that they're going to fall out?
Oh, I was just on an incredible run that night. I have I have no idea. I just just said, hey, Calvin's playing one, Illinois Wesleyan's playing another, and hey, let's throw Case Western Reserve in the mix and let's just call our shot. I thought it was more likely I was going to go 0-3 than 3-0 in those, but hey, sometimes you get lucky.
Your genius is a burden sometimes. So I know we're like well, first of all, actually, because this show has awesome production value. For anyone just joining the chat, I just want to remind you that that Matt's very gutsy prediction of the WIAC going 0-3 on Saturday night, for those just joining us, was not Matt's craziest call of this entire NCAA tournament so far, as Ryan pointed out, and as we talked about earlier on the show. His craziest call, his most audacious, unforgivably homeristic call, was made on this very Ball Habatim episode. Mayor, cue up the video, baby.
The top left, the team you're going to see coming out of the Oshkosh region.
There it is.
Is going to be the Calvin Knights.
Oh my!
Yes!
Here we go.
Oh, please!
Well,
the Calvin and Hobbs drop the mic. Matt just pieces out
that,
while this chat melts down into slag.
I hope we come out of the bottom left, because remember that time a couple months ago where we beat you without Lambisis by like 20 points.
So I mean,
it was single digits.
Wait, with those picks, you were invited to the Ball Habatim bracket pool. So welcome.
By the way, shouts to in the chat. Joel Sule. Shouts to Joel. To Joey. Sorry.
That pot is they do.
Shouts to Joey. Ooh, shots fired. I love it.
So good. Oh my, what a glorious moment.
It's great because you could see Bob Quillman and Dave McHugh and Ryan Scott, they're just hanging their heads like, oh no, what is this guy doing? But we still have 2 games to go though. So I mean, can't call my shot yet. We still got to win.
The disdain that Dave McHugh had for that call was just fantastic. So good. Mwah. So going back really quickly, and Shu and Yoshua, I don't want to cut you guys off, but going really quickly, going back into the chat. We're just jumping around. We'll come back to Sweet 16. We can do all this stuff, no particular order. Shouts to my other half, the other bandwagon boy, Simi Cohen in the chat. Ryan hinted at having thoughts on Mac's future, how to build a good program. Would love to circle back to that. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so having had experience and this as a fan of a program myself, for your guys' historical background, Marietta was for many years until maybe 2009 was a doormat program that averaged 4 or 5 wins a year. I mean, year after year, and so we've certainly been at the bottom and was at the bottom for a long time. And building a program is not something that happens overnight. It starts with a vision. It starts with a coach that comes in and is willing to put in the work and is able to sell that vision to recruits that necessarily you don't have wins or tradition to show them yet, but it's more of a pointing the way to the future. And so, getting that first group to buy in is so key. And I think Yeshiva has gotten to that point now. They've had that group buy-in, they've had success, and now it's about keeping that thing going, right? How do you take what you guys have done the last couple of years and continue to sell that, to continue to recruit, to continue to bring in talent, so that this thing snowballs, if you will. It's a snowball rolling downhill that picks up momentum. And so, if you guys can sustain that and continue to work, and Elliot continues to put in the time and the effort into the recruiting piece of it, there's no reason why Yeshiva cannot be a year in and year out, staple in the NCAA tournament.
So, Ron, when you think about differences between the Marietta team of old that you were talking about, 45 points a year, and the recent successful Marietta teams, besides for better recruiting, what key aspects of the program would you say are fundamentally changed?
I mean, it starts with the head coach. We had a head coaching change in 2007 that changed everything, to be quite frank. John Vanderwall, now in his 15th season, he was national coach of the year a couple of years ago, came in with zero head coaching experience, had basically been an assistant for a couple of years in a couple of places, and Marietta kind of took a chance on him, and he took a chance on Marietta, and it's certainly been one of the most successful hires in the history of athletics at Marietta. If you're pointing to one thing, that change kind of started that whole story, to be honest.
So one thing that we've kind of seen, and I'm curious for both of your takes on this, but one thing that we've seen kind of be a staple of Max basketball for the last couple of years, since Coach Steinmetz took over, friend of the pod, we love him. So shouts to Coach Elliott. One thing we've seen be a staple of the program is the motion offense. We've talked a lot about it, and one of the things that we've seen is that it's been great. It's led to some great results. But it kind of stagnated in our last game against Hopkins, and obviously Illinois Wesleyan was able to shut it down. So if you're like a top program and you're looking at a system like Yeshiva's, is that something that you feel like those two teams were just well suited to stopping it, or is it something that we should think about maybe mixing it up a little bit as we move forward as a program? I mean, I don't know if Ryan, you want to start with that?
I mean, without being an X's and O's coach guy, it's
right.
I know there are some coaches that take the approach that they like a particular system and they're going to run a particular system, regardless of what the personnel that they have available to them are. And there are other coaches who are a little bit more flexible with the schemes that they run based on the skills, strengths, and the weaknesses of the personnel that they have. And without knowing enough of what Coach Steinmetz has done in years past before this group, I'm not really sure if I can say there's a right or wrong answer here. I know that there are successful coaches that take both of those types of approaches and have been successful.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not the X's and O's guy either, but I think most coaches will have a base offense or defense that they like to run. And to some degree, you want to fit your players into the system, but you also want to be able to adapt the system and the sets that you might run to the individuals you have on your team. And the motion offense absolutely can win you the national championship. And I don't think that there's any reason why you need to not do that. I think plenty of teams run similar base offenses. And so I think there's going to be some adaptability around that, but I think it's if that's what Coach Steinmetz likes to teach, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't run that as his base.
I could just speak as a Max fan. Not that I should have an opinion on this, but might as well throw it out there.
None of us should. I'm
not an X's and O's guy. I actually always say when people come to me and talk about the games as if like I actually know what's going on and I understand the motion offense. And I always say just because I talk about it, I just make it up as I go along. Like the color guys who know what they're talking about, I have no clue what's going on the court in terms of the X's and O's and the back screens. But it really does sometimes bother me. Like, at the end of games, like maybe just set like 3 different screens for Ryan and just like get him the ball and get him in open space. And it's almost like sometimes it's just frustrating. We just can't get him the ball and get him a good look. But that's just me ranting. Maybe I'm just still a little sour from last week. But besides that, I think, that's all I have to say on it.
It strikes me as right.
We get into this more when we get to the pod previews, but one of the teams that stood out to me was Wabash, and the system they run that really, they have obviously an absolute superstar in Pat Davidson, and the system that they run seems to just get him in great spots all the time. He's also like makes great shots, but like he runs around screens, off ball movement. They spread the floor around him. He just like, they put him in great positions. And sometimes it felt like, at least this season with Yeshiva and Ryan, it didn't have that same feel. It felt like, yeah, Ryan got his shots and had an awesome season, but a lot of times he had to make very good shots to score, as opposed to him just constantly having wide open looks.
And that can be a double-edged sword a little bit too. If you're running your offense, 1000% through Ryan all the time, and there's a night where he just can't get open or he's just off, then you also have the opposite frustration of, I wish we could run stuff for these other guys too. And Jack Davidson's great. He makes all the shots. It also helps when you can have 7 feet of space between your 3-point line and where you want to shoot it and still make those. But I think there's positives and negatives to both approaches.
So if we're looking ahead,
I wasn't saying we should have had Ryan take every shot like an Aston Francis type system. I was more saying that the system should have been designed to either get him in good spots, but if they're really taking him away, then have other players in great spots for easy passes if teams are taking it away. But yeah, I get your point that if you try to force offense through one guy every time, it will. With Aston Francis, it worked very well against Marietta in that tournament, but a lot of times it could end poorly.
So as we're looking ahead now to this Sweet 16 round, so what are some and Matt, let's start with you. What's like, other than your own home team, what's the most interesting matchup that you're like, I can't wait to watch this game?
Mine's going to be Wabash and Williams, just because of the regionality difference. You kind of have a traditional Great Lakes team with the traditional Northeast team, and you don't get to see that too often in this kind of a round in the Sweet 16. So I just really want to see that matchup.
And Ryan, what about you? What's the one that you're like, I'm tuning into this?
For me, it's RPI and WPI. I'm a huge...
The battle of the Polytechnics.
That's right. I'm a big defense guy. I think these are two of the best defenses in the tournament and in the country, along with Randolph-Macon, which you add them in there. And this is a pod if you like defense. I think both teams struggle a little bit offensively. So I'm expecting a game here in the 60s, maybe even in the 50s. If you're looking for a real tough defensive grind where every possession matters, I think that RPI WPI game is for you.
Yeah. How about speaking to our fan base? If we don't necessarily want to watch defense and we just want to watch offense, where are we looking?
Marietta Pioneers are probably the best offense running right now. Well, yeah. Wabash is really good too. So those two teams.
I think maybe Marietta and Wabash might be the two best offenses left.
RMC is right up there with both of them.
They're good too. Yeah.
Yep.
RMC is amazing at defense and offense.
Yeah.
So I also, as we're throwing some red meat to our fan base here, and I'm talking the Max fans as well as our sister fan base in Bloomington, right? That's where Illinois Wesleyan is. Our adopted rivals / sister fans, and also because we have the chief rabbi in the chat. How are we feeling about this Illinois Wesleyan team? I feel like, we Max fans, we just saw an excellent team come to the MSAC when they played us. How good is this team for real?
I think Illinois Wesleyan is maybe my favorite to get to the national championship game on the left side of the bracket. They're so well balanced. They're really tough defensively. I think they're a top 10 defensive team, but they also can score. They're deep. You've got they're just about +5 rebounding. They don't turn the ball over a lot. I think you just have to play such a perfect game to be able to beat Illinois Wesleyan. And the fact that they're on their home floor this weekend, they're really in a good spot, I think, to make a national championship run this year.
Okay, so let's actually use that as a jumping off point, because I think that's exactly what we're looking for. Let's jump now kind of pod to pod. So IWU, that's the pod with if I'm not mistaken, that's the one with Wabash and Williams, and who's the other one in that pod?
Wheaton
is the other one in that pod. So, I mean, Shu, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that pod or questions on that pod that we want to get out, but I think we should go pod by pod. We got 4 queued up. So I think the only school in that pod that we haven't talked about yet is Wheaton. So Matt, what do fans who might not know the D3 landscape that well, what should we know about Wheaton and what should we be looking for in that team?
I mean, Wheaton's going to have a solid team. They're Mike Shower coach team. I think there was a tweet. I don't know if it was Bob or someone who said, "What kind of team does Wheaton have?" The same team they've had for the last 20 years. That kind of seems always the same. They're going to have a guy who can shoot threes, probably 2 or 3 of those guys. And the interesting matchup there with Illinois Wesleyan, obviously being a conference matchup, those teams know each other so well. Those teams have battled this year. This will be their 3rd time. Last year, I wouldn't be surprised. Weird COVID year, but most years they play 2 or 3 times. And so they know each other. Those coaches know each other. And so these are interesting tournament matchups in that it's so often the interesting matchups are teams that haven't played each other, but these teams know each other so well that almost anything can happen because of that.
And I think if I'm correct, I believe Wheaton and Illinois Wesleyan split the season series. And these two teams seem to have a knack to have some very dramatic games with some close finishes. So we could be in for another fun one in Bloomington this weekend.
Yeah.
And by the way, before we move on, shouts to Avi Dubenholm in the chat, Avi Duben Holmes in the chat with a sentiment that I've encountered a lot in Max Nation. He said Illinois Wesleyan came in and beat us and acted like menches. Definitely rooting for them. Very impressive. I've heard that sentiment a lot and I feel it myself. So shouts to IWU. Anyway, okay. So and by the way, agreement in the chat as well. It's good to see. So moving on, which pod should we hit next? Sure, which pod are we hitting next?
Well, let's just stick here. I know we touched on this game, but okay. Wabash Williams, what are some of the things that stick out, Ryan, in that matchup for you? What are you looking for?
I haven't gotten a chance. I've seen Williams a couple of times this year, but I've obviously seen a lot of Wabash. And Wabash, I think, like Marietta, is playing their best basketball right now. Jack Davidson, you could argue is maybe the hottest player in the country right now, 26 points per game. And he's got some guys around him that can really play as well. Tyler Watson is in that team. Kellen Schreiber has had a fantastic year. Amani Jones. They might, along with Marietta, be the best offense left in this tournament. This will be a really interesting matchup with Williams because Williams is really great on defense. So you got strength on strength here. I don't know if we're making picks at this point, but I am leaning a certain way though here.
Let's do it. Who are we picking?
Do it.
I mean, for in the Illinois Wesleyan bracket, I think it's the home Titans get past Wheaton in that 3rd game. And then I'll take Wabash over Williams to set up a really interesting sectional final Saturday night.
So you heard it here, folks. Right, Whitnable. IWU cannot lose. There's a 100% chance of them coming out of this.
I'm sorry, Bob.
The only jinxing them as hard as the YU Max have been jinxed this year. Anyway, fine. So we've got through that pod. Where we heading next? Sure, where are we headed next? We hit IWU.
Let's go to Matt. Let's go to the Matt's pod. So let's start with Calvin Elmhurst. Matt.
A rematch from December. So it'll be interesting to see how this game evolves. Elmhurst, really good guard, Jake Rohde. He's probably going to hit a buzzer beater in the first half or the second half. He hit so many buzzer beaters. It seems like all the time he's got the ball in his hands to make a shot. Got a nice big inside. Levon Thomas, I believe, is his name. And he was a lot for Calvin to handle last time. Calvin did a pretty good job on Rohde, but not as good of a job inside. I think that's going to be a really good matchup, really close game. And the other game in that pod, Case Western Reserve versus Mary Hardin Baylor, is one that I don't know too much about. I haven't seen Mary Hardin Baylor a whole lot this year. I went to go try to watch some of their games today or yesterday, and there's no links on their site, so I couldn't watch any of their games, which I never like. So I don't know too much about them besides they have Josiah Johnson, who's a good player. So I'm a little bit blind on that one, but I'll be interested to see it.
Matt, just so specifically in that game, you talk a lot about tempo, and that's an important stat for you. There's a pretty big discrepancy there in that matchup. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't dived in too much. You're talking about Case and Mary Hardin Baylor?
Yeah.
They're both pretty fast.
I was talking about Calvin.
So Calvin tends to play fairly slow, fairly deliberate. They will try to get out in transition if they get a steal. Otherwise, they slow it down pretty good. And Elmhurst is more medium paced. When I watched that game here in Grand Rapids in December, I didn't really notice too much of a tempo disparity between the two teams. It's been a couple months, so I'd have to think back on that. But in my mind, I don't remember Elmhurst really trying to push it too much. But maybe they will try to get more shots in transition than Calvin will.
So now, the other matchup in that pod is, sorry, Shuey, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, so the Case Western Marietta and Baylor, I'm going to make a call. That's going to end in the 90s for both of them.
Are they both? They're both a little bit on the faster end, aren't they?
They're both fast. They both top offenses against not like in the 150s for adjusted defense on Matt's rankings. They're both very up tempo. It should be a fun game.
I've got both of those as top 15 offenses. I think Case is around 85 points a game, and Mary Hardin Baylor I think is around 88 points a game. Both are down in the about 200s in defense. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of running. You're going to see a lot of points in that one.
By the way, speaking, just because shouts to Ball Habatim, regular Nathan Cohen in the chat. One of the key players on Mary Hardin Baylor is Josiah Johnson. Can you guys talk a little bit about him as a player? I think last time, and Nathan made this point in the chat. Last episode, the panel agreed that if Josiah Johnson was not injured, he'd have averaged more points than Ryan Terrell even this year. Which I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for that yet, but can you guys talk about Josiah Johnson as a player? It seems like a really special guy. I think one of the other guys in D3 who gets NBA scouts at his games. Talk a little bit about Josiah Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, he started to get some name recognition here. I think Bob may have been one of the first ones to bring him up after going in and seeing Mary Hardin Baylor down in Texas. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think he's averaging 25 a game, and reportedly he's been playing injured most of the year. You could easily make a case for him to be, obviously first team All-American, but in that conversation of 5 or 10 players of National Player of the Year as well. He'll be a big piece of this tournament run. They've got a couple of other guys that play in that double digit area. I know Ty Prince, Luke Feely also averaged double digits. But I don't think they get out of the Sweet 16, to be honest.
Wow. Done. That's it. Zero chance. Stick it on the bulletin board, baby. You heard it here on the Ball Habatim. We're all about the bulletin board material. So that takes care of the Case Western pod. Let's hop next to the Randolph-Macon pod. A team that we wish we'd been able to face both back before COVID and now. But talk a little bit, Matt, about Randolph-Macon as a squad and that matchup coming up.
Yeah, Randolph-Macon's really good. I mentioned before kind of the upper left quadrant being either Oshkosh or not Oshkosh. This is a similar quadrant for me. Randolph-Macon was odds-on favorites to get through. Every time, I said this before, every time I watch them, they just look to me like the most complete team in Division III, both ends of the ball, both sides of the court. Their players, they're fast. I don't know that they're overly big, but they play a little bit. They play bigger. They play tough. They play physical when needed. And they just look like the real deal.
And it's a cool matchup because it's right. This is Randolph-Macon, UMass Dartmouth, right? So this is a great defense versus a very good offense. So how do we see this shaking out?
Anthony on Marcus Azor, which is a pretty cool matchup.
Yeah. Two All-American type players right there in this game. It's going to be a terrific matchup. Definitely must-watch game. And for these two teams, especially for Randolph-Macon, it's hard even to say that the great offense, great defense, because I think they're kind of top 10-ish in both categories. And UMass Dartmouth maybe is not quite there, but they're probably top 20-ish maybe in both categories for me on the efficiency rating side of things. So it's going to be a really good game.
And
in your official rankings, they're 11th on defense and 2nd on offense. Macon.
Yeah, Macon. Yeah.
UMass Dartmouth is like 20th and 150th, something like that. I actually this matchup going out on a limb, I don't think it will be particularly close. And the reason I don't is because Macon plays the slowest tempo basically in college in D3 basketball. I think they'll impose that style on UMass Dartmouth. And the other big thing is Macon is one of the best offensive rebounding teams. They don't have a lot of possessions, so they don't have a lot of offensive rebounds as a counting stat, but they get a lot of their misses. They get 35 to 40%. And UMass Dartmouth is actually a pretty average to below average defensive rebounding team. And I really think that discrepancy will really make the game not very close again.
So that brings us to the other matchup, which we talked about briefly earlier, but I don't know what the stakes are for the WPI and RPI. Like one of them has to become an organization instead of an institute after the game. I don't know what the stakes are. We should make it something good. But Ryan, we heard from you about WPI versus RPI before. Matt, how are you looking at that? How are you looking at that matchup?
Yeah, interesting. WPI for me on my computer rankings has been one of the top kind of 5 teams in the top 5 for most of the year, which is higher than they've been in the D3hoops.com poll and probably a lot higher than they've been in the Massey ratings too. So I've been really high on WPI, and that's largely been on their strength of their defense, although their offense is quite good as well. So I see them as a really strong team, kind of a dark horse Final Four candidate, or maybe they would have been if they weren't in Randolph-Macon's quadrant of the bracket. But WPI is a really strong team.
So we definitely want to get to predictions after this, but I think we have one last bracket, and to start us off on that last bracket, someone who has no affection or feelings whatsoever for the host of that bracket, Ryan the Bull Whitnable. What do we got for Marietta?
Just talking about this bracket in this pod in general, this is a group of 4 teams that between them have 10 losses. I think Marietta has 2 losses. Oswego has 2 losses. I think Christopher Newport has lost twice, and Stockton has 4 losses. So this is a group of 4 teams that are not used to losing this year. So this should be interesting either way. You look at the Marietta Oswego. Oswego, interestingly, was the team the last time Marietta got to the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago at Augustana before the Aston Francis debacle. Marietta took out Oswego State in that Sweet 16. So this is a rematch. I really like Oswego. I got a chance to watch them a couple of times this week. They've got some great guard play. They're pretty good on offense, but defense is kind of their bread and butter. I think they've held teams to just 60 points a game this year. They don't turn the ball over. I think the one question, though, that I have about Oswego is I think the SUNYAC was a little bit down this year as a conference, and they haven't played maybe a team the caliber of Marietta yet to this point. They have some good wins. I think they have a loss to Nazareth. But I do think that this Marietta team will probably be the toughest team that Oswego has seen so far to this point.
How about Matt? Maybe take the other matchup with Chris Newport and Stockton. What can we see there?
Yeah, everyone's really good at this point in the tournament. To me, Christopher Newport is kind of one of those fringe top 10 type teams, and Stockton wasn't quite there, maybe more like fringe top 25. So it was a little bit surprising to me that Stockton got through that first weekend, even though they were the host. I was kind of thinking that the YU Hopkins winner was more likely to win that pod. But obviously that was kind of just an evenly matched pod overall. All 3 of those teams were quite strong. I do like Christopher Newport a little bit in this in this pod, but we saw how Stockton played against Hopkins, and that showed that they can play up there right with anyone in the country.
So let's move now to some predictions for each pod. Who's coming out of each one of the pods? What are we going to see? Who are we going to see when all of this is said and done in the Final Four? Ryan, why don't you start us off?
I would start the top left part of the bracket, the Case Western bracket. As I said,
Calvin, next. Right.
I'm going in a different direction. I think Case Western does get the job done at home over Mary Hardin and Baylor. And I think Elmhurst gets their revenge in the Sweet 16 and does get by Calvin. I think Elmhurst is playing incredible basketball right now. They're on the backs of winning the CCIW conference tournament. And I just have a feeling that they're going to make a run to the Final Four. And I see them getting past Case Western as well in the Elite Eight.
Okay, so Elmhurst to come out of that one. That's a good pick. I like it. We're starting already.
Yeah. Do you want me to keep going?
No, keep going. You're dead to Matt anyway, so keep going.
So, yeah, bottom left hand. This is the Illinois Wesleyan bracket. As I said, I think Illinois Wesleyan at home. I think they win a tough matchup in that Sweet 16 game with Wheaton. And I think I like Wabash in that Sweet 16 game as well. To get past Williams and that contrasting styles there. I think we've got a fantastic, if you want to talk about great matchups, the defense of Illinois Wesleyan against possibly the offensive, player of the year and Davidson. That should be an interesting Saturday night matchup, but I think Illinois Wesleyan is too tough at home. And I think they make a second CCIW team into the Final Four. Going to the bottom right.
Where Bob is really looking.
Shouts to CCIW.
Bob is popping champagne at this point.
Oh God, it's so gross.
Bottom right-hand corner.
He earned it. We love Bob.
Yeah. Randolph-Macon at home. I think they're just too much. UMass Dartmouth had a fantastic year, obviously, to get to this point, but Macon in that defense is going to be really tough, especially at home. And then I like WPI in that second matchup. And I think this is where we get the upset. I think WPI gets past Randolph-Macon and gets to this, we need a surprise team. And I think WPI this year is that team.
Unbelievable. Wow.
Pretty big. It's pretty big.
Those are some good calls. This is gonna be some fun watching for Ryan. All right. Listen, Matt, you got to top that.
All right. Well, 3 out of my 4 Final Four picks are still alive, so that'll be a little preview. I'll start bottom right. I'll kind of go opposite of Ryan here.
Love it. I see what you did there.
Randolph-Macon is great. I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick them to beat WPI, and Randolph-Macon's going to head to the Final Four. Top right. I think Marietta advances to play Christopher Newport, and I still like the Pioneers at home in that matchup. Bottom left, I'm going to deviate from Ryan a bit. I'm going to say that Williams beats the Titans and that Williams advances to the Final Four. So I have them over Wabash and then over Illinois Wesleyan.
Yes.
And then in the top left, I think the statistical case is that Elmhurst might actually be the favorite here. But everyone knows me how I hate statistics, so we're going to throw them out the window. And we're going to go Calvin Knights advance out of the top left, maintaining my Final Four pick from last week's show. And there we have it. Calvin over Mary Hardin Baylor to go to the Final Four.
I want to be on record. We never got to the top right-hand bracket for me.
Yes, let's do it.
We can avoid that. I don't like picking games involving my team, but
I'm just bad at math. Let's do this.
I like Marietta over Oswego State. I think. As I've said, I think all 4 of these teams are fantastic. None of them would surprise me to get out of this weekend, but the way things have gone for Marietta in the past several years, the chips haven't fallen right, and I think that this is the year where the chips fall the right way. I think at home at Van Johnson, I think there's a great rematch. Marietta and Christopher Newport have already played this year on a neutral court. It was the very first game of the year for both teams. And I think Marietta gets them a second time and finally takes that next step and gets to Fort Wayne. Fingers
Oh
crossed.
baby. Oh baby.
Do we have any travel plans for the weekend? Anyone heading anywhere?
So actually, if you were to see just behind screen here, I'm packing at the moment. So I will be packing the car up tonight and heading to Marietta tomorrow.
I'm in my wife's closet, so I feel you. So it's that time, gentlemen. It's time for some predictions. Who's taking this home? Who's taking this whole thing home? I by the way, first of all, you are both welcome to say Calvin and Marietta. Make your case. We'll let you do it. But if you're gonna go with Calvin and Marietta respectively, and you are willing to take that unconscionable jinxing risk, or if you'd rather opt out of that unconscionable jinxing risk, we can hear your backup pick also.
I'll take this one first. I'm going to go straight up a little bit on this one, and Randolph-Macon to me is still the favorite. I like them to continue to advance, and for me, they're the national champion.
Randolph-Macon.
Gonna at the risk of blowing this up.
Yes, I love it. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
No. I'm gonna take Illinois Wesleyan.
Okay.
I think Illinois Wesleyan.
You just saved Marietta's season.
The reverse jinx.
Exactly.
No, I think Illinois
Blackmail
Wesleyan.
does Bob have over you?
And by the way, shouts to Bob. I'm Bloomington bound. Unbelievable. Okay, Illinois Wesleyan, make the case. What do we got?
I think Illinois Wesleyan has been the most complete team that I've seen this year. If Oshkosh would have gotten through that bracket this past weekend, I probably would be sitting here saying Oshkosh is probably the team I would have picked. But of the teams left, I think Illinois Wesleyan has been consistent all year. I like their defense. I think they're going to be somebody's going to have to play a really tough game to knock them out of this tournament.
Shouts to Bob in the chat. Jedi mind tricks from Ryan. Indeed. Indeed. and shouts to Simi Cohn. That ain't no closet. Bougie. Fair enough. So guys, looking back, I mean, I know for Max fans, and I not that I can speak for Max fans, but at least for this man, Yoshua can speak for Max fans, but for this Max fan, this has just been an extraordinary season. It was kind of it kind of felt like the emergence of the Max as a program, not just as a team, meaning the fan base was awesome. And shows like this became like people tuned into this, like, a couple of years ago, this just would have been us talking to ourselves. We'd just be on Zoom. But it was a real thing. And obviously we didn't get the results that we wanted. We talked a little bit earlier about what it'll take to move forward. But since we are inveterate homers on here and proud of it, I'm curious as a team that kind of just got a lot of attention. People, the fans were pretty vocal. I'm curious, both Matt and Ryan, we'll start with Matt. What was it like kind of seeing the emergence of Yeshiva this year, even if it the good, bad, and the ugly, even if it didn't end the way we wanted it to?
I thought it was great being able to interact with you guys online.
Correct answer.
And getting to know you all and the passion you showed for the school, the team, and then also getting to know, like, a lot of your questions you're asking tonight are getting to know the landscape of the broader Division III. Now that you're not, just focused on the Skyline, you're, as a program, we're emerging, we're into the tournament now, multiple years in a row. And this is where we want to be, right? So I think it's been fun to interact with you as we talk about things like Pool C chances and whatnot, and that's been really cool. And I think the thing I've appreciated the most is that most of the Yeshiva fans I've interacted with online have asked questions to learn, not to argue. Some fans will, I'll put out a ranking of Pool C order, and I'll get a little bit like, why wouldn't you consider this team? They're 18-2, and well, you didn't play anyone, your SOS was bad, but then they would just argue back. And a lot of the Yeshiva fans would take that information and understand it. And then I'd see interactions between other Yeshiva fans about like, hey, we don't have a pool C shot, we got to win the Skyline, and that kind of stuff has been fun too. It was that positive engagement, learning the landscape, and not just arguing for the sake of arguing on Twitter, because that's always positive, because that's always fun, right?
We just do that everywhere else, right? And so, Ryan, I'm curious, like, what again, Marietta fan, like, what did Yeshiva have to do with anything in D3 basketball, right? Like, what was it like seeing Yeshiva kind of come up as a fan base, as a team?
Had probably the benefit of not being a top 25 voter who had to share his ballot every week in terms of interactions with Yeshiva. But in all seriousness, no. I think not just
that was where it all started at number 1 ranking. Never forgive you guys. although you did the right thing, probably.
I don't think I ever went that direction. I heard about it quite a bit.
There we go.
But I made a comment before the brackets came out on Selection Monday that I think this season has been the best in terms of interaction between Division III fans as a whole on social media, with the advent of podcasts like these. And I think at the heart of that feeling that I've had this year is Yeshiva and the Yeshiva community and the things that you guys have added to the conversation. And I think I have a special place in my heart for you guys, and the fact that I've been there, and I know, kind of what it is to sit and kind of look at the broader D3 world and not understand it, and to ask those questions. And now sitting here years later, to see other programs having those same types of journeys is great to see. And I hope that that's a conversation that continues. And I hope Yeshiva continues to be successful, because I think it's better. I think Division III basketball is better when Yeshiva is playing great basketball.
Or even if we're just chirping online. I mean, I think we're ready. I think even today, Jack Terrell's putting out, starting lineups for next year. Is this guy coming? Is that guy coming? A lot of chirping already going on. Like, I think we've proven we're not going away too quickly, which I guess is, I mean, you say it's good, but we'll see, we'll see how much more you could possibly take from us.
No, I welcome it.
And it's, by the way, and Ryan, it really is so good to hear that, just from a team that's been through it. I know a lot of the fans, and I know Shua and Yoshua, I'm sure you guys hear this all the time. Yoshua probably more than most of us. There's so much fretting about, is this the best team we'll ever have? And listen, I'm going to put it out there, and I don't think this is jinxing. I think our best days as a program are way ahead of us. And so we're pretty excited. And again, I know we say it every time we have you guys on, and Ryan, this is your first time, but hopefully it won't be the last. We're so incredibly grateful to you guys for making this world accessible to us, for answering our questions, for putting up with our nonsense, and for really welcoming us into the D3 Hoops fraternity. It's just been such a pleasure to have you guys.
Feel likewise.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
great.
Awesome.
I love it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming on the Ball Habatim. This has been an unbelievable pleasure. Please give Matt and Ryan a follow. Matt is at FF. Give us your handle.
FFTMAG. Forever faithful to maroon and gold.
Nice. At FFTMAG. And Ryan, you are at OACB Ball Show on Twitter.
Correct.
We're talking. Nailed it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been an awesome pleasure. So glad you guys made it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And now, gentlemen, I am about to press admit on our upcoming guest. Guys, it's pretty rad. His audio is connected. This is now official. A gajillion people just joined the live broadcast, because this is the most hotly anticipated guest of the entire Ball Habatim year, probably. We are absolutely honored to welcome, for his first ever appearance on the Ball Habatim, the most beloved player in Max Nation who never wore a Max jersey, the unofficial mayor of Teaneck, New Jersey, hands down best man defender in all of Division III basketball, and I will not hear otherwise. It's the thesis of Lambisis himself. It's Pete Lambisis. Thank you so much for joining us, Pete.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You guys, Lambesis is on the show. Nuts.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Shouts to Titans Nation. We're so excited. We kind of feel like you guys are our sort of a sister fan base. So Pete, let's get started. I know we have like a gajillion million questions for you. So this year you guys took a trip to New York with a detour and stop in my very own beloved hometown of Teaneck, New Jersey, what Bruce Springsteen once called the swamps of Jersey. Tell us a little bit, what was it like in the run up for that trip? What did the hype feel like? We definitely felt the hype around here. Did you guys feel the hype out in Illinois Wesleyan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even like a year ago when we knew the game was scheduled, we knew we were going out there to play Yeshiva. And kind of since like the summer, we've been talking about it, honestly, because we kind of knew the tradition a little bit about Yeshiva and their, the success they've had, obviously, with the winning streak. So then fast forward a couple months, the buildup, I think, I heard Ryan mention it, this week on Bob Q's podcast, but like at the time they were 1, we were 3, I think 3 or 4 maybe. Can you guys hear me all right? Because I didn't ask.
You're great.
Cool. Yeah. So and then fast forward a couple months, kind of building up to that, we had a good record at the time. We just played Wash U and we had like a week off for Christmas. We all get to the airport. I think it's like 2 or 3 days before, and Coach Rose gets a phone call while we're at our gate. I think like an hour before we get on our plane, and the St. Vincent, I think it was, they had canceled the game due to COVID at the time. So we're sitting there like, are we still going? Obviously all of us wanted to still go. And then we decided to still go. We talked to some people. So it was kind of cool the way it worked out, because from that point on, it was just kind of focusing on that Yeshiva matchup, which had worked out. And it kind of allowed us to, have some more fun on the trip. We were there for, I think, 3 or 4 days before we actually played. So we were able to do a lot of different things, like, kind of the travel, the experience type of stuff. So that was really cool. And then the game itself was awesome. And, the experience and everything that came with it made it even cooler.
So talk a little bit about that. What was the experience like? First of all, I want to, and I know Shu and Yoshu, you guys have questions. Let's just jump in. This is a free for all. There are no rules on the Ball Habatim. So we definitely want to talk about the X's and O's, definitely want to talk about the game prep, but I'm also so interested just in the cultural element. So you come here, you see all the sites, Statue of Liberty, all that kind of stuff. When you come in, one of the stops you make is at like a kosher grocery store in Teaneck, New Jersey. And I live like right down the block from there. I still have people come up to me and say, oh my God, like I asked Matt Laritz for an autograph, or like, I think people said they asked you for autographs too. Like what was it like kind of being there and seeing the fan base?
Oh, it was so cool. Like, I think the shop is kind of on like a busy street. So,
yeah,
here we come parking our huge charter bus right on the side of the street. We all got like our matching, travel gear on, and we walk into the store, and like, kind of like with any college team, you walk in anywhere and everyone's like, oh, that must be a college basketball team. And then some of the local people that were shopping there kind of made the connection, like, hey, these must be guys from Illinois Wesleyan. And then I remember I was one of the last guys getting out of the store, and I'm walking back onto the bus, and I think someone took a selfie with Coach Rose, and I could like kind of see it like going on. And then that whole week on Twitter was kind of crazy as it was. And then right after that had happened, people were sending out tweets like, hey, we just ran into these guys and whatnot. So that was really cool, because then you're on the bus and you're looking at your phone and you're like, oh, that is pretty cool. Guys were getting, like you said, giving autographs out and whatnot.
Hey, most of the guys, was it their first time in New York?
Yeah, I'd say we probably only had like maybe 3 guys that had been in New York before. So that itself was cool, nonetheless, being in like the actual community that we were in when we got to play at Yeshiva. So yeah, so the first time a lot of guys were out in New York.
And I just have to say too, I think it would be pretty weird for you if you knew like how many selfies and pictures of all you guys we had like passed around all these WhatsApp groups and social media. I think it got a little out of hand. I mean, it was amazing. But could you talk about a little bit of the impressions? I mean, I'm assuming, I've heard on a lot of podcasts and a lot of social media just regarding your impressions about the Jewish community, and a lot of what you learned about the Jewish community. But in terms of actually being there and seeing this, I remember someone put out a tweet like we just walked into a kosher supermarket and they had like sushi and pizza and this and that, like, that kind of stuff. But the more practical stuff, like, what did you learn and what were your takeaways from those kinds of experiences?
Yeah, I know it was awesome. Just in terms of the Jewish community as a whole, like, I remember once the game had finished, people were going on the court and whatnot. And I think I literally think I shook like probably like 300 hands. And it was all genuine too, which was cool, which is different because,
you got COVID like 19 times in 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, honestly, like just meeting so many people, and it was really genuine. A lot of times you'll play a game and you see some of their fans and they're like, "Oh, good game, man." But it was cool. It was like every handshake had a little conversation with it. And it meant something different to everyone. Like the players, it's basketball, but with everyone in the Jewish community, it meant something different for them. Whether that be like a little kid watching who loves basketball or an older person watching. So I'd say that kind of left the biggest impact on me. I remember saying after the game, it wasn't even a game; it was more of like an experience, the entire trip, which made it like worthwhile. Because like honestly, looking back on the trip, I don't really even remember as much of the game as I remember like right before and afterwards. Like walking into the game was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. Honestly,
it doesn't feel like a game because you're up by 25 minutes in.
Right? Yeah. No, but honestly, like.
All right, I'm out of here.
The added security and everything, it was cool. And then, after the game, just getting to talk with everyone, like, our assistants had to come like remove all of us from the floor because everyone was involved in a conversation with, different fans and whatnot.
That's unbelievable.
I want to get into the scout a little bit, but before that, I want to go back to the beginning of your IW career. How was the recruiting process in the Midwest? What made you choose IW, and how has your 4 years, your experience there been since you chose it?
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. My senior year, I was down to like 4 schools, I guess I had a bigger list, but I came on an overnight here and I saw us play North Park one game, and I was like, this is definitely the place I want to be. Just the balance of, I'm from the suburbs, so it's like a 2.5-hour drive from here down in kind of central Illinois. And then I knew the quality of basketball here in the Midwest, kind of growing up around some teams in Division III. So it was a pretty easy decision at that point. I knew I wanted to be here, and it's worked out, and I'm glad I made this decision.
That's awesome. So the Yeshiva Scouts specifically, we all were super impressed with the job he did on Ryan. I mean, he got a few points, but you really held him in check as much as pretty much anybody all season. So now that the game is over and you're not likely to face Ryan again, I want to hear a little more about what went into prepping for him. Yeah. So basically, like, for me, I'd said it kind of in the interview after the game, but like the big thing with Yeshiva was it was more of like a personnel scout versus, sometimes you'll scout like a system. And like you'll hear like the Princeton offense, like something like that. But this was more of like a personnel scout. So, what are Ryan's tendencies? What are Gabe's tendencies? And for me personally, I kind of after studying Ryan's game and, watching a few games on film, and my 2 ideas were kind of like my 2 points I wanted to have were I want to limit his touches and then kind of push him off of his spots. So, for example, I knew he wanted to catch the ball in the low post. Like, that's kind of where I think he's at his best, when he can kind of back you down there. So I thought, if I can kind of push him off that spot, that'll limit his touches and kind of limit his, sight to the basket and what shots he wants to take. So for me, those were kind of my 2 looks, kind of 2 preps going into the game. And then, I also had to kind of throw into the idea of like, Yeshiva has 5 guys on the floor that can score because they're so, individually, they have a lot of guys that can hoop. So kind of had to keep that in mind too, with different guys like Ofek and Gabe and whatnot. That's cool. One of the things that really impressed me, I think like maybe 4 minutes into the game, he got you on the post. He did like one of his fakes. You flew back by him and he stepped in and missed the layup. And I was like, he's going to do this all day. But you really didn't let him get another opportunity like that.
I had the same thought. So funny. I had the same thought. Impressive.
No, yeah, that's funny. Me and him actually talked about that after the game. I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, you got me on that one, which is funny because like before the game, I'm like, all right, he's going to get to that right away. That's kind of, it's one of his better moves. So he got to it and I jumped and I was like, shoot, why did I jump on that? So I kind of made the adjustment later on. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay down as he shot fakes there. And I think he had a couple more touches down on the post. And then he'd got me a couple times on some threes or whatever. But yeah, that was a move too I was expecting. I still couldn't stop it because it's such an impressive move.
So we could talk about this literally all day. This is unbelievable. But you guys, first of all, congratulations on your Sweet 16 birth. We know Bob Coleman, shouts to Bob, has zero expectations for you guys, so no pressure whatsoever. As you look ahead to the upcoming weekend, how you guys feeling?
Feeling really good. definitely excited. Like, it's going to be really cool. I mean, you know, the way it was working out, like, we probably weren't going to host, and some things worked out. So being able to play at home again is a great advantage, something I'm looking forward to.
Unbelievable. And how do you prep for getting, like, at this point in the tournament, every team you're going to play is a really good team. So does that change your prep at all? Like, how does that affect your process?
Right. Yeah. So I'd say, like you said, every team's going to be solid at this point. So it kind of comes down, like, it sounds kind of cliche, but like, it comes down to those little hustle plays. That's actually what won us, I think, the game against BW Lacrosse. Is we had some like jump balls at the end, some loose balls. Rebounding is what it ultimately comes down to. I think we really did a good job there. So kind of going into these types of games, you're like, you know, they know us, we know them. They're going to have their scout, you know, and so on. So you kind of just need to execute and take advantage of those loose balls, you know, little plays that not everyone's going to go for.
Amazing. So I suppose for one thing that I'll say as we bring on our next guest. So just shouts to Joey Sule in the chat, and I've heard this from a lot of fans, and I feel it myself. He says literally every Max fan is rooting for IWU, and I think that's right. You guys made a real impression on our fan base, so we're definitely pulling for you guys, and we hope you pull it out.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Anyway, this is the stage where we just bring on all the celebrity guests. We have Pete Lambisis on one side, and we have guys. I mean, we're just beyond honored to welcome. How do I put this? The reason this show exists, right? To be excited about a legit nationally prominent Max program. He's the accountant, aka the comptroller of the MSAC, aka the Dark Knight Satyr. He's the all-time Max leader in assists and rebounds. He's the first gentleman of the Leifer household. He's Gabe Leifer. Guys, we have Gabe here. We have Pete here. The first thing that I want to start out with is one of the enduring iconic images of that IW Yeshiva game is actually not anything that even happened in the game. It's a conversation that you guys had afterwards. Shouts to Bob, friend of the pod, friend of the Ball Habatim. He talked to us. He kind of like shared a little bit about it. But as people who were close to the situation, what did you guys, Gabe? What did you guys talk about at the end of that game?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to finally make it to the show. Everyone talks about it. Big part of the reason why we're successful and we have the following that we have. So a lot of credit here. But basically,
we take credit. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And Bob got you guys saying nice things towards them, so that was good. But basically after the game, we just spoke about how, first of all, we just said that was an awesome atmosphere. It was fun. It was exciting. It was great to play against each other. A lot of mutual respect. And then also kind of before the game, when I was speaking to Bob, he was mentioning how few players on the team were going for accounting, specifically Pete. So I just was mentioning, like, although we're just fighting on the court, you guys just gave us a bad loss. They killed us, but although that all happened, it's bigger than basketball. And if I can create a relationship and if I could be there for someone else that needs help, if I'm in a different place, I know that if I was in the opposite end, I would want the same thing. So I just basically told Pete, if you need anything, I'm here. If you need a connection or anything, let me know. And congrats on the game.
And Pete, can we, what's it like? What was that like, sort of making that connection after the game? And can we expect to see a commit soon to a red shirt at PWC?
No, it was really cool. I remember it was before the game, Bob had mentioned something about Gabe, being in the accounting field. So I kind of knew that a little bit. And then when we had crossed paths after the game, we talked, I think, for 15 minutes, and probably 2 of those minutes were basketball. The rest of it was just, like the experience, life and accounting, for example. So that was really cool. Like when I talk about the experience, like that was kind of one of those things I think of, kind of being able to do that and connect on a level other than just basketball.
That's amazing. Listen, what I'd say is first of all,
offensive system where you guys are going to
go ahead. What was that, Shua?
No, what type of offensive system are you going to run at the PWC intramural team?
Yeah, that's
whatever it takes.
That's
maybe
kind of attitude I like.
We'll throw in some pick and roll. We'll see.
That's kind of attitude I like to hear.
No experience in the pick and roll.
Yeah, I'll need a few weeks of training before we implement that.
That's what we like to hear. Listen, first of all, Pete, and as someone just member of the Jewish community, we're all members of the Jewish community. We, Gabe can speak to this better than any of us by far. But, we've all experienced sometime over the last couple of years as, anti-Semitism kind of rears its head. We've all experienced it. We've all had our encounters with it. And so anytime that we're really welcomed by others, by a community, by people who don't know anything about us, it's just always exciting and we always appreciate it. So the Illinois Wesleyan, the team, the fan base, the community on Twitter, it was always not just respectful. It wasn't just like, lowest common denominator, minimum viable product. You guys really embraced us. And I think that's why we felt really excited to embrace you guys back. So thank you so much for joining us. It really means a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. This has been really cool. I'm glad we could definitely make this connection. This has been really awesome.
First time.
Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, good luck. First time, hopefully not the last time. Thanks a lot, Pete.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Good luck.
Oh my God. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the meat and potatoes of this program. The reason why there are more people watching this broadcast than I think I've ever watched a Ball Habatim broadcast before. Gabe Leifer. First of all, we're so excited that you're here. Our first question is like a super duper navel gazing question, but not about the Ball Habatim specifically, but the fan community. What was it like to kind of see the Max fan community kind of grow from where it was to where it is now?
Yeah, I mean, usually the gym was not full ever. Forget social media, forget people talking on Twitter. We would get into a gym. It would be 2 minutes before warm-ups. The game would probably be 10 minutes into the first half, and we probably had, I don't know, 100 people there max. Now you have lines going out all the way down a few blocks in the city. You have people who are, I heard there was like a black market for tickets where people made a crazy markup on tickets, and it's just getting sold out. And I don't know what it was. People say that it was less, and I know people set up bots to buy tickets, and they're like so nervous that they wouldn't be able to get it. And the fact that it just sells out so quickly is kind of a testament to our fan basis and how it feels for us playing for the Jewish people, because you guys are what makes it so special for us. And if we didn't have such a great fan basis, we would probably, I wouldn't say we'd be less invested. We'd obviously want to win, but we'd be playing for something completely different. And it's awesome to be playing for the fans and to have you guys and to know that you guys are behind us the whole way through.
Yeah, I could definitely attest to that. I think I had a whole family lined up, and I think we got 2 tickets out of the 8 people who were trying to get. But everyone who wanted to go ended up getting there. I wanted to ask you about: are you following now what's going on in the D3 tournament? Sort of, when you are eliminated, what are those next steps? I know you're obviously very busy at work, but are you keeping an eye on everything going on?
Yeah, I'll check the scoreboard. I mean, also it's a little difficult kind of just because of the way that the games are set up. Is like a game will be Friday night or a game will be Shabbos, so it's kind of nothing I can do. Like I'm not gonna watch. But I'll check. I'll go online after, and I'll go to d3hoops.com and kind of see what's going on. Like even last weekend, I just wanted to know what was going on. See if we were the only team that I felt really should have won that loss. But it was fun to watch. Going forward, I love March Madness. There will be a lot of great ball. I'll be rooting for whoever is still in the tournament, but it's a much different feeling once you're eliminated.
I'm sorry, Ari. I had to fanboy this one. I had to jump back in.
I know. First of all, shouts to the Ball Habatim audience. Welcome to the Grizzled Mac, aka Grizzled Mac. The Grizzled Vet, aka
it's all good.
Former Mac, aka the guy who was into all of this before it was cool. He loves it when you call him Rough Papa. It is Natan Cohen. We're so excited to have him here. Fire away, baby.
Hey, Gabe, I have to ask you. There are 2 things that I just, from an insider. But first of all, I just want to talk about the game at DRS. Like I don't even want to talk Max basketball. That game was unreal. And by the way, the fans. I mean, the place was shaking. It was unreal.
Yeah.
Mama Terrell doing her thing. It was crazy.
Yeah, me and Ryan were sitting across the court, and we're like, "Oh my God, if she can get this in an NBA stadium, that would be awesome."
How do we import them to the MSAC? It was crazy. It was nuts.
I don't know, but when she gets on like the big screen at the game and starts saying "Go" and someone else is chanting Knicks and the whole stadium saying "Go Knicks," that'd be really cool.
Oh my God, I love it. What's the plan? Like, does Coach Steinmetz? I know recruiting is a big part of his approach to this. What's the plan for recruiting someone to replace Mama Terrell? Do we have anyone lined up?
I don't know, but I heard that YU's working on some contract with her. Maybe fly her back in for a couple big games. You know, St. Joe's, Connecticut. Maybe they'll get her to the Shirk Center. Who knows?
Now we're talking. I want to see if we're taking this seriously.
I want to stay on that same line of questioning similarly, but can you talk to us about the T-shirts? Because I saw, and maybe this is not the first time, but I saw. I think it was your mom who walked in with a whole box of T-shirts that we're handing out.
Yeah, a lot of excitement from the fans. Try to get involved however you can. Feel a part. Listen, maybe we'll have to get Ball Habatim shirts.
I was so excited. Wanna Be a Maccabee, I think was the championship version, but I believe this is not the first time, and people were like clamoring for it. It was awesome.
So I actually want to build off that. So I've said this on the Ball Habatim before. Took my kids to the Skyline quarterfinals and the semifinals, and my oldest plays ball. Second, who came to the first game. My second plays ball. I think the game for them was sort of like the appetizer, and the main course was afterwards when they went to take pictures and get autographs with you and Ryan. And the PS for that was that my oldest daughter kind of brought into school, for show and tell or showing her friends, whatever it was. She brought pictures with you and Ryan and the autographs. And people were like, again, genuinely, like, it may as well have been a picture with Steph Curry and an autograph with like LeBron. So what's it been like kind of just with kids looking at you guys as sports heroes? Like, what's that? In addition to representing the Jewish people, like, what's it been like just having all these kids just come up to you and look at you as the stars you guys are?
Yeah, it's definitely cool. And also I'll definitely talk about, like, let's say last night at the DRS game. I would have family friends like come over, like little kids, and like all of a sudden they're shy. I'm like, come on, I've known you for like 10 years. No reason to be shy, but no, it's definitely cool. It's definitely a really cool experience. It's really, I think it's really important that people understand that we also acknowledge that this is bigger than basketball. And if people are all of a sudden gonna, like when I was growing up and I was practicing in my driveway, I'd be counting down 3, 2, 1 and saying LeBron James, trying to make a shot. If people are all of a sudden going to start being able to do that for people like Ryan, Eitan, Ofek, I think that's cool. And I'm glad that we're able to be role models and that people are able to look at us. And if they see something in us that they want to emulate in their lives, then that would be awesome. And if that's also, we understand we're a role model when we play on the floor. We got to make a Kiddush Hashem, and we got to represent ourselves well and also the school well. Because we know that everyone's looking at us and we're in a spotlight and we got to live up to it.
Right. I think that's the question, is how many perm costumes are we going to have of Max next week? It started to build. The OFEC one was very popular. I'm not sure exactly what your look would be, but I'm excited to see. I'm sure there's got to be some. I think also, we talk a lot about, the little kids and
Big yarmulke carrying a Mishnah. I think that's the way to go.
Also, I think you have to look for the loading up the stats. So I think you have the eating of the Shells Monos, the giving out of the Shells Monos. You could pile up just a lot of statistics. Triple double is definitely in play.
Those are perm counting stats. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see if people dress up as Jordan. They can pull that off.
The man bun will be out in plenty. We're going to run a little perm contest.
I've been trying that all year.
To the listeners.
Out there all year to try to do that.
Yeah, challenge.
I was going to say it's an
again.
extensive commitment. You got to take a few months to really get to that point. How about Gabe? I know you were at the DRS game last night, and I also know confirmed sources that at least for next week you've been invited to a number of Yeshiva League games. But I think also from that high school experience, and it wasn't that long ago for you. But I think even these high school kids look up to you. I mean, I have like an in with my students because they think like I'm friendly with everyone on the team just because I do the broadcast, and they like, oh, like you talk to them, like you send them my regards, like whatever it is. But I think they even have this because, their ball players are sort of at that middle stage.
Wait, Yeshua, can you give a plug? I don't think I know this about you. So when you say your students, what are we talking about?
I work in Ramaz Upper School.
All right.
Shouts to Ramaz, baby.
Shouts to Ramaz. They're awesome. They're going semifinals. They get the home game. Gabe, I'm sorry the DRS lost last night, but they get the home game because First beat DRS last night. So Monday night, Upper East Side, be there, be square. I actually might be on the call. They asked me. We're going to try to work that out. So if you can't make it, but I think they really, they really value this stuff. They sort of see themselves as like maybe this is the next step. And I think growing up, this was one of the I guess one of the topics of conversation, it was always like, okay, these high school ball players are great, but like, where are they going next? Like, they're not going to go play D1. There's really nowhere to go. And I think now we sort of have that program of like, we're talking about the Zevi Samic, who are now in Israel, who was a great ball player last year. Like now we have that next step for these high schoolers. So I'm assuming you've had a tremendous number of interactions with high schoolers. And now this program is sort of that next stepping stone for someone who would like to still be part of that basketball community, especially a Jewish basketball community. So if you could speak a little bit about, the high school transition and the impact and the conversations you've had with those kinds of kids.
Yeah. So first of all, just you mentioned him. So Zevi Samic will be on the show. He is really good. He is really good. And I played with him
That's it. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining the Ball Habatim. Anyway, he's
a really good player. I wish I could have played with him at YU, but he will definitely help this program a ton. But yeah, kind of just to speak to that is that it's kind of every point in life, it's like you got to look at what's gonna be the next step, right? So like for let's say a high school kid, when their next steps, I'm going to go to Israel, I have a year, and then I'm going to go to college. There's 15 guys on the team, and how many Jewish high school basketball players are trying to play for YU? And it's a big learning. It's a big step. It's just because you're good in high school doesn't mean you're going to be good in college. And we also see that in college. Just because you're good in college, you can be the most dominant college player and barely get drafted in the NBA. Like we saw with like Luka Garza, who's player of the year, averaged 30 and 10. And I think he was like the 58th pick. So to get to that next step, it's not always who's the best player in that situation. So for these high school kids, who I think, I guess my advice would be whether you're coming straight or not, and you're going to take a gap year, figure out what you think the team needs and what you think that you can do. Because I said this in a few interviews before, Elliot and any coach in college, any coach at any level is not going to put 5 20-point scorers on the floor. They're going to put someone who's going to come in and play defense. Lambesis, who you had before, is arguably the best defender in all of Division III. He's not trying to score 20 points, and he's on the floor 40 minutes a game, and he'll get his points just because he's that good on defense and he flows into the offense that well. But don't try to be a 20-point scorer. If you have a good shot, work on the shot. If you're good at cutting, work on cutting, rebounding, passing, and anything that you think that you can do specific, try to do that. Don't just try to be a 20-point scorer.
Okay, so I want to touch on a point you made earlier, and this is a point that's made a lot when talking about Yeshiva basketball, is the kind of that the whole it's more than basketball, as you say. So that's a positive and it's awesome, and we're all there for it. But on the other hand, it probably can add a little bit of pressure to players. So what advice would you give to players coming in for how to kind of compartmentalize where that weight can be a positive and not necessarily a negative?
Yeah, it's all about just how you channel it. Some people, it can get to them, and it's also kind of a similar thing with fans. I remember last night, me and Ryan at the DRS game, they asked us at halftime on the DRS show, it's a crazy atmosphere, crazy fans. Do you think the fans got to them? Like, how do you think they responded to the fans? And I think it's kind of just in general, you can either get lost in it and you can play towards the fans, and you can like not play like yourself, or you can use it as fuel, use it as motivation, use it to help you get going when you're down. Try to get the crowd involved, try to make it loud so that people, so that it's loud on when you're on defense and the other team can't hear the plays that they're calling out. But it definitely is, it's a bigger burden. I wouldn't say burden. It's a blessing how great it is. It's awesome. But there are also certain times where you feel that extra pressure. Like when you lose, it's not about, all right, how are we going to get better tomorrow? It's, all right, I'm going to have 50 guys coaching me tonight. And you don't get that in every program, and it's amazing and we love it. But like you said, sometimes it could also be a lot, and people just, over the years, you learn how to handle it. You learn how to tune out what you need to tune out and listen to what you need to hear. Because just because someone's not your coach doesn't mean that they're not saying the right things. When you guys are posting videos and pictures on Twitter of us needing to box out, half the time you guys are right. And someone needs to say that to us also, besides for our coaches. So it's awesome to have that following. And sometimes if it does feel like it's a little overwhelming, I'd rather be overwhelmed with that than have none of it at all.
You made a point. I just want to just something that crossed my mind.
We're such mechutzafim, by the way. Like, we're such mechutzafim. Like, it's unbelievable.
First time you hear the name Stu is on the QCast.
100%, exactly. I just want to point out, like, one of the things that crossed my mind immediately, and maybe this is sort of like the connecting the statements that you were just making, right? It's both the experience, but also, sort of the way you feel. The first thing I saw, because that if anyone watched the DRS game, the way it ended, right, was actually eerily similar. And I hate to bring this up to the Johns Hopkins game where there was a look, right? There really was a look at the end of the game. And I don't know who that kid is on DRS who wasn't able to hit that last shot. But if I'm there and I'm saying, you know what? I got Ryan Terrell in the building, and I just watched him on the QCast this morning, and just be okay, right? Being okay with, hey, sometimes it falls, sometimes it doesn't. I just think that role model, like, it carries over not just to thinking about what you're doing next, but it literally mattered in the moment. Like, that was my first thought that crossed my mind, is that kid has the best, like, consolation as possible. Even though he feels horrible in the moment, he can look and see there's a guy sitting over there who just went through the same thing I did, and he's good, right? Like, and that just, it was, I don't know why, it just crossed my mind right when that shot happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I definitely hear what you're saying. I also went over to him after, and I just told, like, if you watch the rest of the game, if you watch the end of the game, you could say, all right, that stinks. But if you watch the rest of the game, they wouldn't have been in that situation if he wasn't there.
For sure. It was a lot like the Farmingdale game. I mean, like, a crazy, crazy comeback.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have been in that situation if he wasn't there. And also, this is like a classic thing when people say, oh, it's the ref's fault. The game doesn't come down to one play. You didn't lose the game in one play. The game was lost if it was the first turnover of the game, whether that's a turnover there and they got an easy layup and you lose by 2 points, or you miss a shot at the buzzer and you lost by 2 points. 2 points is 2 points, and everyone's got to value every possession and not just point fingers at a last play, because without his play, they wouldn't have even gotten to the last play.
Listen, Gabe, I haven't seen an official announcement anywhere. I know you have half a year of eligibility left. What's the story over there?
By the way, I don't. And
is that true?
Ryan made a comment on the QCast. I'm like, I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I don't. And I'll be a fan. I'm gonna be a fan.
Future man.
I've been calling this the seventh day. This is the month of Agar after Gabe and Ryan. So this is like, again, the timing just worked out on Friday Rosh Chodesh. So it just the month has a lot of simcha.
We're so excited to announce breaking news on the Ball Habatim. Aggregators, get on it. The next member of the Ball Habatim crew, beginning next year, every single show, Gabe Leifer. Welcome to the Ball Habatim. This is amazing. By the way, shouts to Bob Quillman in the chat.
Tell them about our 6 a.m. practice, though. I don't know if you want to do it, man.
Exactly. We're all at night, Seder. So shouts to Bob Quillman in the chat. Half the time you're right. Nicest way anyone has ever said you're wrong 50% of the time. Shouts to Bob. Well played.
It's all perspective, Bob.
Exactly. So first of all, this is something that we talked about a lot all season, and I think the accolades that pervaded the league when people spoke about you, which I can't, you don't seem like the type of person who's kind of going around, control F kavod twittering, for trying to figure out, what everyone's saying about you. But you must have been aware the whole season that people are lauding your ability to juggle so many things. But what was it like throughout the course of the season, having to juggle not only the things that you needed to do, like work and so forth, but also things that you not wanted is the wrong word, but that you felt compelled and obligated and responsible to do from a hashkavic standpoint, like learning and so on and so forth. What was it like to balance all of those things, and how did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, if Pete's still listening, Pete, if you have an extra year, don't work in play. It's it's a lot.
It's amazing
when you have to balance everything. It's not easy. But also at the same time, it was such a unique opportunity, and I wouldn't change my decision from when I decided to come back and take everything on. I thought it was awesome. Definitely helped me a lot with like learning how to time manage, self-discipline, and also just like look what's come about from this season. There's so much good, and it's so awesome, and I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to come back one more year and make it all work.
So
We're
as
thankful
one thing that has come about as a consequence of this season, which I believe it was Bob actually on our show who pointed it out, but since then it's been said many times by many different people, is that the transition, or rather the inflection point that we seem to have arrived at, is that YU has switched from a good team to a good program. And you obviously, along with Simcha Alper at Donnie Katz, were instrumental in making that transition. So first of all, what was it like kind of building that culture? And second of all, what's the next step in this process?
Yeah, so I guess kind of going back a few years and building the culture, I don't think for any of us it is ever we're here to build the culture. I think it was always we want to win. I don't think anyone should be on a team if they don't think that they can win now and that they're only there to build it for when they're gone. You definitely want to build it up, but if you don't think you can win then your mindset's in the wrong place. So we definitely, from the beginning, always had that mindset of, yeah, the program hasn't had too much success in the past, but we're going to win now. Just, we're not going to be, okay, we're going to make the semis this year and then we're going to take the next step. The step was always to make it as far as we could in the tournament, from the get-go. But there definitely has been a tremendous amount built in this program. I mean, you never would have gotten a guy like Ryan Terrell or Ofek Reef or Jordan Armstrong or a transfer from Division I like Ethan Lasko. That's definitely come because of the people even before Simcha and Donnie, the Shelby Rosenberg, the Mike Berg, the Shia Weiss. Those people are the people where I think they had the first winning record in a bunch of years. And if we want to talk about the stepping stones, you got to start having a winning record first to even get some Alper and Donnie Katz. So ever since Elliot's come, he's been trying to build that culture. I think that the future of the program is in great hands. Definitely going to be competitive for the next few years. I can't speak on the kids who are in 8th grade. I don't know who's good yet or not. But I'm happy that I was a part of when we first started to win and we first started to move forward. Wish we could have accomplished more. Definitely don't have any regrets. I'm very happy. I think it was all a success, everything that we've done, and it'll be cool. You'll see in the next 3-4 years, you'll get guys that you probably have no idea how to even pronounce their last names. There'll be Israelis, there'll be Jews from overseas. There are going to be crazy names on this team. And it's just because everyone wants to come play for Yeshiva, and not just because of the guys who are here. They want to come play because of you guys and the fans. They love the atmosphere, and I did my job. Now it's your job to keep it going.
Oh,
and I know it's early.
We got to box out better.
Yeah, I know it's early, and I know it may be too early to answer this, but if you start thinking about, what are the things that are not obvious or things that you're going to really miss about this time in your life, what are some of those, or one of those things that pops to the top of that list?
Yeah. So right after we lost, I texted Ryan, like Saturday night. I'm like, I never thought I'd wish that we had practice tomorrow. Never thought I'd wish there that, but
that's amazing.
I'm not going to miss so much the basketball. I'm going to miss more the guys and that family and every day working to get better. And listen, we can say that whatever the record was of games won versus lost when I was there, we could talk that out, but those times where you go through losses, I'm not going to say it's tragic. I'm not going to oversell it, but when you go through times with the guys on the teams and people have got their heads down and you got to figure things out, It really builds relationships, and I'm gonna miss those moments with the guys. I'm gonna miss. I mean, we'll all stay in touch. That's what we built. But I'm gonna miss more of those moments off the court than on.
So, by the way, shouts to Max for the win in the chat with a great question. Ask Gabe, what was his favorite Max moment? I mean, if you had to just pick one, like, what's your favorite Max moment?
It would either be the first conference win or the alley-oop.
Oh, that's the correct answer. Can you take us through that? That we literally sat down. I think Nathan, you said it was like our Zapruder film. Like we sat down and broke down that thing. Like we were Charlie Kelly from It's Always Sunny. Like how did you know where Ryan was? Like we have to do a segment. How did you know what was happening in that play? Honestly, in the stands with my daughter, like I thought you just like messed up. Like because ball went flying. I thought you were going for a layup and it like went flying, you know?
Yeah. Half the world still thinks I airballed, but that's okay.
The angle from the corner was so pretty, so beautiful. It was like, I've watched it 900 times. Take us through the play.
Yeah. They got to give me the benefit of the doubt after all these years.
Cue up the video here.
We'll watch it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I've literally watched this play 5 million times.
And the way Ryan described it last night and on the Q-cast was amazing. He was like, I didn't think he was going up, and then it went there, and then I had to go get it. So it's amazing.
When did you realize it's behind you?
Yeah, so Gabe, hold on. Is May, are we can people hear us now? I don't know. Let's so let's take us through the play. Take us through the play. What was going on here?
Okay, fine. Yeah, so basically what happened was they were on that three-man weave the whole game. And I thought that I was just going to cut it off, jump the pass a little bit, which forced the turnover. Obviously, at that point, I had no idea what happened was going to happen. But if you
hold up, because I remember I was watching the show when the other clip went up, and I don't think until the clip comes back that they can hear you. So we may have to just tee that up again.
No, Mayor just said people
awesome.
Can hear us. Yeah. All right, so yeah, go ahead.
So when Eitan got it and he threw that outlet pass, before I got the ball, I had to look back at Eitan. First of all, Eitan gave a beautiful pass also, and shouldn't be cut out of any video that this is a part of.
Oh, it's the three captains, three seniors, part of the best play in Max history. It was so beautiful.
And all in the last home game.
Yep.
Maybe Eitan's last.
Bob Q pointed it out on Twitter. The last points at home for our all-time leading scorer, last assists at home for our all-time leading assist man, and Eitan with a gorgeous hockey assist to set it up. So
yeah, exactly.
Wait, so you already knew you were going to throw it behind you before you caught it?
When Eitan passed it, it was me and then the Manhattanville player, and I'm like, okay, they're down so much. He's going to go for the block, maybe try to get a spark. And I saw that it was me, the Manhattanville player, then Ryan. So I was like, we're up 30. I don't know how much time's left, 8 minutes or something. I'm just going to go for it. I'm like, if he doesn't do it, then it'll be a blooper. Also, I think you could see my face right after. I'm like shocked because I didn't actually think he was going to get it. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to put it up, and if Ryan wants to go get it, he can get it. But it was really once before I got the ball, and I saw that it was me, the Manhattanville guy, and then Ryan. And if Ryan dunked on him, even cooler. But I knew that Ryan was going to go get it in that situation. I was just going to leave it up there.
Yeah, we were waiting for the Dwayne Wade pose into the camera, but I think you had to check back to see if we actually got it.
Yeah, I was too shocked myself. Look, you'll see right after. I had to watch.
It's true. You can see it. You can see it right there.
That's a good call because number 5
right there,
wasn't going to get up there. Once that ball goes up, number 5 he's not going to get up to the ball. So it was really just a question whether Ryan was going to get it.
Yeah, and thankfully he did.
So I will say, on the broadcast, because we all listened to it afterwards, Yoshua Siegel with probably the greatest call in the history of Max broadcasting. It was just unbelievable. So met the moment. But in the MSAC, what was it like when that went off? Like fan reaction? Like what did it feel like?
It was electric. Everyone was going crazy. I mean, I've never seen Elliot move that quick or like that. I've never seen that emotion from him. And I think that sums up the whole video is just watch Elliot, because he doesn't stand during the games really so much, and you just see his reaction on the bench, and that speaks for itself.
It's amazing. Wow. So one thing that we're just jumping around, but one thing that I want to kind of go through with you is a very special thing about this team that has kind of been, parts of it have been mentioned on various podcasts, interviews, whatever it is this wasn't just a team of people who, were proud to be Jewish, and that was kind of the extent of it. It wasn't just a team of guys who were good ballers, and that's the end of it. There also was sort of and it was different for everybody, different for every individual, but there was like a culture of Torah around this team. Whether it was Max Leibowitz in the locker room, but can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like how did learning kind of either impact the team or impact your experience of the team? What was that like?
Yeah. So, it started with Daniel Tamir when he was coaching, and he kind of did it once or twice, and then Tyler Holt took over and he did it for a couple of years, and then Max took over, and rumor has it Matan's taking over next year, which I would love to see.
I love that so much. Holy cow. The whole Ball Habatim episode was worth it for that. Anyway, continue. Yeah. That was great.
But it's nice because
shouts to
although we're about to play basketball, and although that guys are probably going to take off their yarmulkes, and who knows how the game goes, maybe get lost in the game a little bit. Before the game, we always come back to why we're here. And that's because we're in a Jewish college, a Jewish yeshiva, and we just do a quick learning. We don't think that the quick learning is going to give us extra special powers to win, but it definitely is nice to just step away from basketball and just focus on something else, and something about that we all can come together and do and be together as a team. And especially as a Jew, it's definitely nice to have everyone from all the different backgrounds just accept the situation and just come together and learn for, I guess, a minute or two.
Dude, I'm getting goosebumps.
So am I. It's amazing. It's incredible. Oh, I'm so proud to hear this.
Go ahead, Shula.
Any correlation between the quality of the Dvar Torah and the quality of the performance on the court?
Yeah, I guess Saturday night's a tough night to give Dvar Torahs because you just finished the Parsha. You didn't maybe not have started Shnai Mikra for the next week. We got to come up with something quick, and our record in Saturday night games. They're not too great.
So you're saying it wasn't the Cholent that everyone thought.
It must be some Cholent mixed in, but yeah.
It's an overrated myth. It's
theory.
Like a witch story, whatever they call it. Pound Cholent game day.
By the way,
there's no better way to get
the T-shirt.
Separation in the post than pounding Cholent.
That's the T-shirt. That's the T-shirt. So, Gabe, as someone who's, unusual, like you kind of look for comps. People have said it on the Max Live broadcast, and people say it on Twitter, and I'm sure you've heard it. Like the closest NBA comp for you is like Nikola Jokic, right? Just a big man who can pass and rebound. What's in your head? What's the mindset that you need to take when you're thinking about rebounding? What's the mindset you need to take when you're thinking about getting the assist? And how do you keep those kind of in the same place during a game?
To be honest, I don't think about it too much. It's kind of just the way the game goes. Like I was saying before, every person has a different role. Some nights my role in the past has been to score the ball, and some nights it's to get the other guys going. Like if Ryan's hot or Eitan's hot or Ofek's cutting, why do I need to take a shot over them? They're going. Let's just get them the ball. And rebounding is as important as a steal, a block, or a bucket. You got to end a possession with the rebound. Not just great defense. If you play great defense for 20 to 30 seconds and then all of a sudden they get another possession, that's deflating because you just worked hard. So the most important part of defense is ending the possession. That's getting the rebound and boxing up.
I think you can say that for your. Again, one thing we're always blown away since you stepped on the court, your hands on defense and blocking the ball. And I think people don't realize a lot of times. We saw some incredible blocks. Obviously, Jordan was unreal this year as well. But the difference is I can't really recall too many of your blocks being sort of like highlight blocks out of bounds. It's almost like you blocked and always kept possession or got possession to the team. And you talk about sort of like that is that something you worked on? Is that something that came from high school, or sort of did you develop that over the college career?
It's just because I'm not athletic. Let's keep it honest.
No, I didn't get up. That's what you're saying. You didn't get higher.
Yes, I love it.
No, but it's not something I practice. It's kind of just half the time I just put up my hands because I'm like, the guy's coming straight at me. I'm not going to jump with him, and sometimes I just get it. I don't know.
Well, you just get it more than like 50% of the time, so it's pretty solid.
Right. Yeah, but that's probably the lack of athleticism, if I'm going to be honest.
The true Jewish basketball.
Gabe, any coaching aspirations in the future?
And shouts to the mighty Mayor Wazell on the 1s and 2s for an awesome question.
Yeah, I saw a Max assistant. That's not in the plans. Definitely nothing in the plan right now. Business wise, trying to just be young, soak up all the experience and information that I can learn now, and go from there.
By the way, last shouts to the other bandwagon boy, Semi-Cone in the chat. Can we ask about going viral in the overtime video on Instagram? What was that like? I mean, that's a crazy account to get posted about by.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Not gonna lie, some people thought that I made a burner account and sent it in to get my own ego boosted.
That's the move, honestly.
People come up with everything.
I should have thought of that before.
Gabe's like Kevin Durant. He's like arguing with randos on Twitter from a burner account, like refuting Bob clowns like us.
you know how many people have asked me like if the Twitter account is like Max Fanatic or YU-Mac, like super fan. How many people are like, "Yo, is that you?" And I'm like, "No, it's not me."
Gabe wishes he was Max Fanatic.
I do. Maybe it'll take over me soon. But yeah.
Shouts to Shua.
Maybe you could post boxing up videos from now on.
Yeah, you almost got me in trouble. People thought I was arguing on Twitter.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
No, but she was our stats guy, right?
Baruch Hashem, the Admor of analytics. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Wow.
Dude,
so
he's starting a program at YU.
By the way, not a bad idea. Advanced stats. Why not? Get some Excel.
You guys heard it on the Ball Habatim first. Everyone listen to Shua. Use his stats, use analytics. He's here to help. Listen, we know
any one of us, by the way, is going to look good with patches on the elbows. It's Shua.
Amen, brother. Listen, we know you're a working man. You're a married man. You have responsibilities. We don't want to keep you too late. But we're incredibly grateful in the most just prosaic sense. We're incredibly grateful to you for coming on tonight with us. But in a more serious sense, you've really taken this entire fan community. You've taken all of us, and I know we joke around a lot and we have fun on the show. But in a very serious sense, you have given an entire community of people a window into excellence. My teacher at Yeshiva University, Rabbi Shalom Karmi, he should live and be well, has a wonderful line where he says you can have I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's you can have a religious experience without a sense of athletic excellence, but you can't have a positive religious experience without a reverence for the exhibition of excellence. And you guys showed people what it took to do something excellently, whether it's basketball, whether it's anything else. And that's the kind of commitment that we all need to be better Ovdei Hashem, better students of Torah. And to be able to watch you guys and what you've done over the last couple of years has been an enormous privilege. We know it's not easy to kind of shoulder the burden, or as you said, the privilege, but it's still a burden. It's tough to shoulder the burden of representing an entire people in anything, let alone something as public as this. And for you to have chosen that path on behalf of us all is something we're enormously thankful for. So for everything that you've done, of course tonight, but also for the last couple of years, we're very grateful to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd just like to thank you guys for making the experience so great. It would be not even close to the experience it was without the fans, without everyone being so dedicated and following us and traveling with us wherever we go. The fans are what makes it special. And thanks for everything you guys do. Thanks for having me, and hope to be back on one time.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. When it's not, we'll try to get it when it's not busy season, but don't be a stranger.
Yeah,
Okay,
Gabe's got a lifetime free pass onto the Ball Habatim, so that's that I can guarantee. And I will say before we sign off, welcome to the fan community. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. And also, yeah, I gotta run because one of my guys, Mike Goodman, who I work with, he's gonna kill me for staying on. He's got a few things that I gotta work on. But,
shouts to Mike. We love it.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it. By the way, we probably have a community of tax and other people that you could lean into if you need, just to finish up an assignment or two. But we'll leave that for a different time.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that up to compliance and HR. I'm not going to get myself in trouble.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Dark Knight Seder himself, the comptroller of the MSAG, this has been Gabe Leifer. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
We'll talk soon.
Have a good night.
Unbelievable. Clever.
How humble. I mean, like, again, you watched Ryan's, thing this morning. I mean, like, you got to feel like the humility is such a key element to the success as well. Right? Like, just not letting it get to your head, even when people are singing your praises. It's just, what an example.
Yeah, it's really
Dave, Pete, Ryan, all of them. It's amazing.
Yeah, and look, I think it's worth saying the Musser we got from Bob was good Musser. This is an incredible group of guys. And, part of being a fan, part of the privilege of being a fan is you get to pick them apart and you get critique. And we're going to continue to do that because that's how that's our contribution and it's part of the fun. But the gratitude to all of these guys, from Ryan and Gabe and Eitan down to anybody down to the last person on the bench. I mean, down to whoever the last person on the bench is, but like from every single person, it's just to be to shoulder the burden of being a part of this. Very grateful to you guys. It's just such a pleasure.
Yeshua.
Yeah.
Sick opening. You got like, sorry, I apologize. That's only downhill from here.
No, it's all good. Listen, this is, I was saying, I was going to write it in the chat before, but I figured I wouldn't. I think I was more nervous for my debut on here than I was for any other game I've done.
Yes, Jay with the PM. I love it.
No joke.
Unbelievable. Guys, we did another one. This is pretty good. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat. Oh, by the way, before we sign off, shouts because he's been in the chat. He hasn't. We haven't been able to get a question from him, but shouts to Mich MCR. We every single episode, we're going to pronounce that a different way. Shouts to you. We love you. Shouts to Isaac Hollander. Shouts to Ellie Burnett. Shouts to Brett Levin. So many guys in the chat tonight. We're so glad that shouts to Zevi Fisher. Everyone has been amazing. Avi Dubin Holmes. Anyone who didn't know, we got a question from him. And anyone who joined us in the chat tonight, we're so psyched to have you guys and looking forward to the next one. In the meantime, roll Max roll.
Mention before we sign off, I want to thank all of our supporters who donated to Kay's cancer.
Oh yes.
Awesome.
Oh yes.
And
yeah.
Well,
call out Shua. Shua, you want to call out where that is?
No, again, go for it.
It's still on Twitter, right? Ball Habatim. But okay, wow, it's just amazing story. I think we raised somewhere over $1,500 in 12 hours or something like that. And again, keep pushing it. Mayor says we're over $2,000. It's an incredible story, and we want to keep pushing that. So please, Mayor, I don't know if we can pin that, or Simi, if we can pin that for a little while to the Ball Habatim Twitter, so people see it. It's pinned on there, but it's a tremendous giving opportunity.
We have an incredible Max fan, Dota K, who's fighting an incredible, courageous battle against stage 4 cancer. We are here to help. Let's come together we come together as a community for fun stuff like basketball. Let's come together as a community to do meaningful things like raising somebody up in our community who needs it. We've raised over $2,000 as a fan community. Like in a day, we did it. Imagine what we could do if we really put our minds to it. So everyone, please check the Ball Habatim Twitter account. You'll see the link there. One of our guys is going to pin it. Thanks as always to the mighty Mayor Wiesel, aka the Mayor Meisel on the ones and twos, engineering us to the moon. And just a reminder, as Mayor always tells me to tell you, like and subscribe to the Ball Habatim YouTube channel. The train is rolling. Subscriber count's growing every day. Be a part of the fun. And this has been unbelievable, guys. Let's rock and roll. Roll, Max, roll. We got another.
We got recruiting. We got all sorts of things that are coming in the coming weeks and months. Hopefully, we got the D3 tournament to finish. I'm sure we'll have some more of our awesome panel on. Check out the podcast as well. I think we're starting to put things up on Spotify and other podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Again, watch us right after you watch Good Faith Effort, or listen to Good Faith Effort, one of the best podcasts out there. If you really haven't checked it out, please do. Ari would never plug himself, but it is one of the best listens. I mean, if you're a sports fan, no doubt, but honestly, if you are a sports fan on the corner, right, of Judaism and sports, and want to dive deep into that and really experience something, please check out Good Faith Effort. It's unreal.
And shouts, by the way, in the chat to Oren Glickman, the estimable, the impressive, the eminent Oren Glickman in the chat. We're so excited to have you. And any last plugs? Trying to think if we got to everything. Pretty sure we did. Oh yes, by the way, sounds like Zevi Samet. It sounds like we got a confirm on that from one Gabriel Leifer.
We don't print till we get two sources, right? But we sounds like we got. I guess it depends on whether Jack's a source or not, but it's two sources.
Man,
right?
the legend, Jack Terrell.
Confirmation.
Friend of the pod. I love it. Unbelievable, you guys. Another one in the books. Roll, Max, roll. We got an awesome season coming up of the Ball Habatim, an awesome season coming up of the Max. We have so much more content rolling at you. We'll be at you soon. Thanks, Shua. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Yoshua. Guys, we out.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys.